Fred Scott.
Sunset, God bless you.
How you doing, Fred?
Well, I'm just about to ask you the same thing.
Sit down.
Want to sit a spell here? And
You know, ladies and gentlemen, this man sitting over here on the left of me is a legend in show business. He's one of the cowboys that kind of paved the way back in the early days for all of us to follow. And a man that I am very proud to call my friend, Mr. Fred Scott. God bless you, Fred. How about telling us a little bit about your history, Fred?
well, Sunset goes. How far back do you want to go?
Well, I've always wondered how you got started and everything. I admired your movies and all of that. And, you know, we're going to run one right after we get through talking.
You are.
Yeah?
Well, I'll be down. Which one are you going to run? You
I don't
remember?
know. We got 4 of them over there, so
Well,
we'll have to figure that out.
I guess one's as bad as the other.
No, they're all good.
But going back to the historical part of it, my father's mother came out in the old covered wagon days, and she used to tell us great stories about Indian attacks and all that sort of thing, you know. She's just a little strawberry blonde, and one thing led to another, and I was born in Fresno.
Fresno, California.
That's my hometown. And then my grandfather, my mother's father, came out and took up quite a bit of land around Fresno. We had ranches out there, and went to school there for a spell. And then my father was assigned to build a lot of adobe houses down in Llano del Rio, right on the edge of the Mojave Desert, called Antelope Valley. That's where all the big planes come in now, all the big aviation, big field there, you know, where the astronauts land. Well, anyway, in those days that was Lovejoy Springs, an old Black Butte out there. And while I was out there, they had cattle, they had horses, they had alfalfa, they had farming, the farming community. And we would, I went to school in Adobe schoolhouse. And while I was there, I learned to ride horses, and rode my first quarter horse there. Boy, there was nothing like it.
You was riding in all the time from a kid up, huh, Fred?
Getting on one of those babies and let the wind fly past your ears, you know.
It's wonderful, isn't it?
And as a 16-year-old kid, it was just like being in heaven. And then the cook there at the old ranch house was an Italian, and he loved this Italian opera stuff. They had stacks of records, old Caruso records and old Tetrazzini records, and the whole darn shooting match. And he'd play them every morning. And nothing like hearing that music come out over the plains there early in the morning, that marvelous music. I got hooked on it. And then I got to singing a little bit. And folks thought I was good. Took me into Los Angeles to a real teacher. While I was there, I was spending my summers driving hay trucks and going to dramatic school in the winter. And at one of our dramatic classes, we had a young girl there, J. Stewart Blackton's daughter. She was about 14, and she was in one of the classes. By the way, Lucille Lesser was in one of them, and she became Joan Crawford, you know. Very
Joan
famous.
Crawford.
Yeah. And also we had, we was invited over to her house. They had, Blackton was quite a figure. I got to tell you about him. You know, when he started out, he was a young reporter, and his bag was to interview people. And while he was interviewing these famous people, he'd sketch them, see? Draw pictures of them. He didn't have those marvelous cameras they have today, or any of the radio or television or any of that stuff. And so he finally, among the great people he interviewed, he came to Thomas Edison. And they hit it off. Edison saw that Blackton had talent, and he told him about his new invention that he's working on, the motion picture. Of course, it wasn't called that then, probably called jumping shadders or or flickers. And in fact, it didn't have any name at all until they built the black box up on top of one of the skyscrapers there in New York.
In New York,
And that's where they made the first motion picture.
not Hollywood.
No, sir, it was made in New York and about 24 stories in the air. And John Bunny, Flora Finch, made the first picture in America. I think it's called Tilly's Punctured Romance. You can do anything with that title.
That's a title, isn't it?
Yeah. And, well, anyway, to make a long story short, Billy Blackton, the young daughter, invited me over to her house. They had a beautiful place in Hollywood. And because we didn't have television or anything to entertain us, we had to entertain ourselves. And the way we do it, we do what they call charades. That's where you present some kind of a story, and then the kids all acted out, you see. And somehow, and the old man was always around in the background, you know, a very gregarious guy. And he kind of took a shine to me, and he put me into a picture. First picture was Bride of the Storm. It was Dolores Costello's first picture. And in the cast, the heavy was played by Tyrone Power Sr.
Tyrone Power Sr.
Yeah, big, heavy, kind of a forbidding guy, a heavy. And he had a little boy named Tyrone Power Jr. And I was playing a comedy sailor in it, and between takes, why, the little boy took a cotton to me, and we just kind of wandered down. We were on location in Arch Beach, which is now called Laguna Beach. And we went down the seashore, and he liked these little crabs, you know, these little crabs that are always floating around there. And we'd go down and gather those things. We got to be great pals.
That was Tyrone Power.
That was Tyrone Power. Later became a big star.
Certainly
And
did.
I watched him through the years grow up and become, but he never forgot me. And last time I saw him, and he was in one of those old Duesenbergs. Do you remember the old Duesenberg?
Yeah.
Several of the stars had them out here. And he waved, and that's the last time I saw him. A little later, he was dead, sorry to say. But to go on about my so-called career, one picture led to another. I played with May McAvoy and several of the old silent stars. And then when music came in, or when sound came in, I'd been studying singing, you see, all this time. And one thing led to another. And I got in with some of the people at Path A. That's where I met Bill Boyd.
Hopalong Cassidy.
Hopalong Cassidy. We were young fellas together, and of course he wasn't thinking about the westerns at all. And he was a big star in those days. And then later on,
Bill was he was a silent star too.
he was a silent star. And then when we had sound, why, he was at Path A. We were both under contract. Clark Gable was under contract there too, getting $125 a week. But Path A let him go because they said his ears were too big. Boy,
It turned out to be one of the biggest in the business, didn't it?
I'd like to learn how to grow my hairs bigger. And then later on, Jed Buell, who was he was Mack Sennett's publicity man, got it into his head to make some singing westerns. And he called on me, and I was tickled to death because the whole thing just fit together for me. And we started making these westerns, and we sure had a wonderful time.
And that's where the golden voice cowboy was really born.
Well, we
wasn't
had a
it?
marvelous time, and the rest of it you probably know.
That's why you fit so well in it, because your background on the ranch and your
Well,
writing and everything.
The
and then,
writing
of course,
and the singing and
your
the
beautiful voice and
guitar
singing, the
playing
golden
and all.
voice, yes. That's fantastic.
And now I'm an old timer, and I have the fun of meeting you guys and being friends with you. And I'm
Well, no.
sorry Bill isn't here.
Yes. But you know, Fred, I mean, you just got back from Charlotte, and I know that all reports down there that you
Oh.
had thousands of fans down to see you there, to turn out there
Yeah,
in
it's a
Charlotte.
wonderful thing.
And I know that you have a comic strip, I think, coming out,
That's what
National
Mack's
Comic
doing.
Strip, yeah.
That Max Harrison, he's really something, isn't he?
Yes, he's a great guy. It's just wonderful. You're living now in Palm Springs,
Yeah,
aren't
we
you?
retired to Palm Springs.
Retired.
After I didn't hear from Central Casting for about 40 years, and I figured they were trying to tell me something. So I went into real estate, and later retired to Palm Springs. My daughter now, Brenda, is in real estate there and carrying on.
I understand you and Gene Autry have breakfast together quite often down there.
Yeah, we get together and shoot the breeze. talk
Gene's
about
really a
the old
nice
days.
guy,
Oh,
isn't
he's one of the nicest fellas next to Sunset Carson.
Well, thank you.
And
Thank you, Fred.
There's a handful of people that have just made life worthwhile for me. Bill Boyd, Sunset Carson, Gene Autry, Roy Rogers. Of course, Gene, I think, is the king of the hill. Roy
Yeah.
Rogers probably the crown prince.
Yeah.
But boy, I tell you, they're marvelous people.
Yes, they are. They're wonderful. They're always there.
Generous.
Gene's doing quite well with these baseball games. That's something you'd never expect a cowboy to wind up owning a baseball game.
I sure hope he gets a pennant.
I do too. You know, it's kind of funny, like old Pat Buttram said. He said, you know, old Gene used to ride off into the sunset, and he says, now he owns it.
Yes, he sure does.
Oh, Pat was one of the greatest comics too.
I think he's the best we've had.
I tell you, he keeps me laughing all the time. He come up with some of the stuff. I mean, it's at the top of his hat.
You could tell stories about that guy forever.
Yeah,
Well, it's sure been nice being with you, Sunset, and hope we run into each other again on this street. Sometime when I'm
Thank you.
getting a haircut there.
yeah, when it's the barbershop open. Ladies and gentlemen, you've been listening to an interview with Fred Scott on the Sunset Carson Hollywood Nostalgia Theater. And in a little while, we're going to show you one of Fred Scott's movies. And then we'll be back and visit with you again. So till we see you again, so long, goodbye, and may God bless you. Bye now.
Thank you, Sunset.
Bye, Fred.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you.